Hey everyone, welcome to New Comic Book Day Book Club. Even though there are no new comic books on today's day or for the foreseeable future, we're still here to entertain you. My name is Alec. This is White Whale Comics. I have with me, as always, John from John's Comics with Kids.
I got my notification that you're live.
Oh, good deal.
Click the
And
bell, baby.
with us this week to help us review our book, our old comic book, is DruManchu, baby.
That's my entertaining face.
Yeah. This is my entertaining face.
It also is your solemn contemplation face. It's hard to tell them apart.
And my excited face and my sad face. It's just my face. Not a very emotive guy. But hey, we're talking about robots, so that's appropriate because we're talking about Descender tonight. We read the first volume, or I guessed what the first volume was. I guessed it was 6 issues, right?
Yes.
Because I have the hardcover. So great. Glad we're all on the same page.
So I will say I kind of have been pushing for this one for a little bit just because of all the Image books that I bought, and I bought a ton of them. This one was the one that I was most blown away by. The one that I ended up reading, I think, 3 of the trades just in a row because I was like, wow, this is just so phenomenal. I was just pulled right in.
So spoilers. Say hi to the chat. We got Life with 2 YouTubers first waiting in the tailgate, as we call it. Thanks for stopping by. Comic Man Andy hopping over from the other show to join us. Gore Vidal, always nice to see you, man. Backseat Driver, always nice to see you as well. And Chris Barrett is here, so you know it's a real chat. We got Bear Island, my other compatriot from the Wednesday show. And Perry Comics lurking away. And Splash Page Comics also here. I'm sure more people are going to be coming in as the notifications are once again working on YouTube.
Yeah, they've been spotty a lot lately. It's good to have them back.
Yeah. So would either of you guys like to do kind of a brief rundown of the plot of these 6 issues?
I mean, I'd be more than happy to.
Go for it.
This is the story of the future and also the past of the future. And the past of the future, they were very reliant on robots. There is a big to-do when these giant robots, they then call the harvesters later on, start showing up and dictating their will upon the galaxy. Humans then defeat the robots and start throwing away all of their robots. There are scavenger crews that go around collecting robots, torturing them, killing them, and scrapping them. On a remote mining colony, years after this happens, a small child companion robot named Tim-21 comes back online, finds his robot dog, and also alerts the government through the signal that he produces to his existence. Funny thing is, his signal is very much the same as the giant harvesters. He uses the same code language as these harvesters that came. And so the government is chasing after Tim-21 to catch him. There are also scrappers running after Tim-21 to catch him. And that's kind of where the story starts off. That's like the first 2 issues, and I think we can go from there.
Sure, sounds great. My first question to you guys is, who would you say is the hero of this story?
Tim-21 is obviously the hero of the story.
They make it Tim pretty clearly, but I agree that there's a big cast here.
I would argue that it's Driller. Driller is the real star of the show. He steals every panel he's in.
Driller is the true Chewbacca of the adventure.
Exactly. He's a real killer.
It's funny that you say that because I went to Wizard of Oz metaphors in my head, but Wizard of Oz and Star Wars have so much in common that it's perfect that those are the sort of vernacular for something like this. Yeah. But I mean, for me, he's the Scarecrow, right? He's that sidekick character that's like so entertaining, but is clearly not the main character. You have Tim and his toy dog that is the Dorothy and the Toto of this story, clearly, for me.
Did I miss the cut of Wizard of Oz where the Scarecrow kills a bunch of people?
Yes.
Maybe he's more the Tin Man because he's a killer.
Did you see the cut with the little person hanging himself?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I mean, clearly Tim 21 is the hero of the story, the main character. Although there are, a number of people that it follows, including Dr. Kwan and Telsa.
Telsa, yeah, with the red hair. Yeah.
So there's a lot of perspectives that kind of tell the story together. But obviously it centers around Tim 21, who is the kind of the key that they think to unlock all of this.
For me, like I want to say the highlight for me, this feels very character driven for me, and I really like the characterizations that they've got going on here. The droids, and there's kind of like three primary droids. You've got Driller that Alec mentioned, who's this like mining droid who's been like working underground his whole life and has grown to hate humans after sort of the purge that occurred.
Hermans.
Yeah, Hermans. And then you've got the dog droid who just says "arf," but Tim can completely translate every "arf" to what it actually means.
Yeah, and I love when
he says "fra."
Yeah, fra, because his speech chip is broadcasting backwards.
Right.
So the first time Tim finds him once he wakes up, he's saying "fra, fra, fra."
And you've got Tim, and I think the three of them have a wonderful spectrum of characterizations for droids in this, and I really enjoy them. And then you mix that with the sort of Gaius Baltar character in this, who, if you're a Battlestar fan, I know Alec and I've seen Drew grinned, so I'm assuming Drew's a Battlestar fan. The man who is sort of responsible in many ways for the droid situation that we find ourselves in, and certainly
blamed
creator of the Tim droid, and so he's sort of drawn through this whole thing, and much like Gaius in the early Battlestar, if you've seen it, he's there for the annihilation and the realization of his part in it, and then we're jumping ahead to the future and sort of pulling him along as somebody who's like, I'm a failure, and everybody doesn't know I'm a failure, but I'm just kind of like trying to keep up.
I think that there's really three stories going on here at the same time. There's the overarching adventure of it all to, find Tim and what the connection is to these harvesters. There's the look at humanity through Tim's eyes and his character's journey to every day strive to be more human. But he's also being told by Driller the whole time that the humans are evil, and he's experiencing the humans' evil along the way. And then you also have the Dr. Kwan. Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Right?
Gene Kwan or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce some of these names that they're putting in here. Lemire does a good job with him and kind of making this all about his unwittingness in being a villain through hubris and greed. He doesn't see the forest through the trees with his actions, and it kind of kickstarts this whole thing. So it's really a three-pronged attack that draws you into those characters. All of the supporting characters have a big role to play in the adventure, but really it's really about the Doctor, and it's about Tim and their view of the situation. Tim with innocent eyes, and the Doctor with looking back and with regret.
Yeah.
And both of them feeling like they're in the middle of this debate, right? Are humans the worst, or are robots the worst? Like, on both sides, you've got Driller feeling very strongly that humans can't be trusted and they're horrible. And you clearly have all these soldiers on the human side viewing that robots can't be trusted and they're all horrible. And in the middle is Tim and the scientist.
Much like Battlestar.
Right?
And
very much like
But I hope that Tim and the Doctor don't get it on at any point.
That's a Battlestar joke, not a...
Yeah, that's a battle.
No, I was explaining that to the chat, not to...
Robosexuals.
right?
Um,
When I first read it, I was struck by the two things. Obviously, the artistic style of it's got a watercolor like feel. I don't want to like label it as
no, it's totally watercolor.
but I mean this is the first issue, the big splash page reveal of the killer robots. They're called hunters. Is that what it was?
Harvesters.
And these are all giant spaceships, but the harvesters, of course, enormous.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Jeff Lemire because I think this, for me, is maybe the best thing he's done. Like, maybe not the best thing he's done, but certainly like a top tier thing that he's worked on. But Dustin Wynn's artwork in it is just, every page is absolutely gorgeous.
And that's kind of what I was going to show, is just kind of a sampling of how vividly it's portrayed. So I was struck by the art style, but then for me, like what kept me going a lot was this, there's a strong character connection where I felt like I could sympathize and understand almost every single character, which for me does not happen a lot when I read a book. Usually there's people that you're just like, I can't stand this character, or I don't understand what this character is. But like I could sympathize with almost every character in the story.
I agree. They all have a nice level of depth and believability to motivations. I dig it. I think that the first issue of this, if I would have read it off the shelf, I don't know if I would have picked it up going forward. Issue 2, though, has a fantastic hook. It's one of the better single issues I think that I've read in a long time. It's just the whole flashback of Tim 21's story that you think is like happening as he's running away from these scavengers. Then you come to realize it's his life flashing before his eyes after he's been shot. And just the way that it's all pulled together is absolutely beautiful. I fell in love with this book on issue number 2.
Yeah. Also, it's not just the flashbacks and flash forwards, but the way they juxtapose the flashbacks and flash forwards next to each other. So they're usually like page to page.
Yeah.
And all the flashbacks are kind of like in the sepia tone. And it's just really a great piece of visual storytelling as well as literal storytelling.
Yeah, having like Alec is saying, the flashbacks side by side with the linear story that's playing out on the mining planet. Yeah.
And yeah, to Drew's point as well, this certainly does have a fairly heavy plot, and it's really easy for a lot of movies and comics and stuff when it's so plot heavy to take the characters and just make them set pieces or make them, things to plug in to facilitate the story. But they all really are they have unique personalities, and they all, it's as much about character as it is about story.
I feel like that first issue felt like it was way more about story than character, and it didn't give you as much to hold on to. And then the second issue, the second that they started drawing you into the character, I was like, oh, I hope they do this for more characters, and they definitely do throughout the book.
Now, have you read the whole thing yet?
I have not. I've read the first 2 volumes.
Okay.
And I'm reading Ascender now. And I'm trying to get through the 3rd volume of Descender, but I have it in single issues, so it's I gotta go dig it out when I want to read it.
Who's got time for that?
Yeah, so like for me, I've read the first 3 trades, but I've got all of them, and but I paused knowing that we were going to discuss it. I didn't want to get too far ahead and then forget like which issue I left off on. Drew does have a voiceover voice. He knows it. He nails it, man. He brings the A game.
Yeah,
I can't stand to hear my own voice though. Every time I hear like a South Baltimore accent start to flow into my vernacular, I just want to bash my brains in with a hammer.
Get some powder.
Just take a hammer to my skull.
Drew has a voice for radio, and I've got a face for radio.
I mean, that's not saying I don't have a face for radio as well.
So it's funny that you both mentioned issue 2 being this turning point, because it's also the introduction of Driller, this character who sort of who rescues Tim after he's been shot and takes out a few of the bounty hunters that are looking for him. And it's funny because this first moment where he comes in all tough and strong, he actually appears to be kind of like worried, because obviously he's worried for the toy droid, but he comes out with his normal like Driller hates humans and Driller's a killer. Actually doesn't say Driller's a killer. Yeah, he does say Driller's a killer, but then he has this whole bit where he's saying Driller doesn't know what to do, little bot. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, like his hatred for the humans is what really, and you find out kind of where that stems from later on. But that's what really, like, he's not a bad bot. He was treated badly,
Mistreated, absolutely.
Yeah, his intelligence is so low on the robot scale. Kachung says, "Hey guys, you're making me want to read this book, which is uncommon for book club." Yeah, it's we kind of like cheat when we get to pick stuff we've read before and say like, "Oh, it's something we really like." But honestly, like sometimes it's harder to talk about stuff that's really good because it's easier to say, "This is what you did wrong," than it is to say like, "Well, this is great. So what else do you have to say?"
So I mean, I've jumped on character a lot, and I do think it's less of a plot-driven comic, but obviously as the characters come in contact with one another, the plot takes over in some ways. But what I like is that the story is revealed kind of naturally. It doesn't feel forced on the characters. The characters reveal information when it like fits. It's not just exposition dumps or anything like that. In fact, I don't know. There were several times I had to slow myself down just because I was missing stuff. And
yeah, there's kind of like one exposition dump in the first issue when they
when he links with the computer for the first time.
When she picks up Dr. Kwan and they're like, "Tell us what you know," and he's like, "Don't you already know that?" And they're like, "Humor her." And they make him tell it her again, even though she keeps like kind of like interrupting him and telling him, and he's like, "If you already know this, why am I telling you?" So I'm glad they at least like kind of joke about the fact that they're doing that. But
that, and there's also a big exposition dump when he links into the computer for the first time. But at the same time, it's outlined very well and it's laid out really well within the confines of the page.
And
so it kind of
so darn good. Who cares?
Right. it carries you through it, and it's like, oh, thank God for that page. I think that issue 1 pretty much is like, hey, here's this world we're in. Here's this thing that happened. This robot woke up and it's important and we got to go get it. And then issue 2 is like, okay, well, this important robot, who is he? And explains that to you. Yeah. And then once issue 3 starts, every part of the story is kind of involved in each issue. They do character moments. There's not a whole lot of exposition. And then they find 2 or 3 moments throughout the book to push the giant narrative that's going on along as well. I think that I really dig all the like issue ending cliffhangers in this book. I think they're fantastic. I think it just pulls you along at a really good pace. It's brilliant in my opinion.
Well, you mentioned the cliffhangers because I for me the 3rd issue cliffhanger was phenomenal, which is the injured Tim going and having these visions while he's dead or dying of other robots who were killed in the slaughter. And then waking up and asking, well, okay, well, if I wasn't in heaven, then where was I? Like, what was that?
If it wasn't a dream.
And I'm pretty sure they've established at that point that robots don't dream.
Yeah. It was very, very deliberate that robots don't dream, but he wants to have dreams when he sleeps. So, of course, the moment that his consciousness or signal or whatever was hijacked by these other robots that we do come along later in the story that are great. I think that it's awesome that they put it in the phrase that he thought he was dreaming. It was what he thought dreaming would be like, and I thought that the innocence of that was kind of a cool juxtaposition to the
Yeah.
big adventure that's going on in the world.
And speaking of the cliffhangers, you don't really get like the thing that drives me nuts, which is the villain reveal after every issue. It's like something different happens that wants you to come back and read more. But at the end of issue 6, to jump ahead a little bit, they're all kind of captured. Dr. Quan is tortured and his hand is cut off, and Driller is put into this like
gladiator ring.
Yeah, it's gladiator ring for robots, and he's killing people and robots and stuff. And they're about to kind of scrap Tim when these other robots show up and kind of bust down the door and say, let's hold on here, and we got something to show you, Tim. And it's another Tim bot, who's Tim 22, I think, right?
Tim 22. It's a final page reveal for the trade.
And he becomes quite important moving forward, but because they thought Tim 21 was the last Tim alive.
Yeah, issue number 5 was the the battle pits where they're torturing the doctor.
Yeah.
And I also love the fact that Driller, who hates humans so much, and I can't remember the guy's name, that Dr. Tulsa or whatever, her heavy
bodyguard, her
heavy and Driller are just back to back, and the heavy's like, we're fucked, and then the Driller agrees with Ugly Hume. Driller and Yappy Bot are fucked. And then Driller just goes nuts and kills everybody, which is great.
As Driller does. I also like the panel where he drills into the robot who's shooting at them, and the bodyguard guy jumps on the robot's back to tear its gun off, and he's like, Driller's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm getting a gun. What do you think I'm doing? I'm unarmed here. I don't have giant drills for hands."
Yeah.
What are you doing, Ugly Hume?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that guy doesn't look human at all.
In this first trade that is built on nicely. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who's not a robot is a Hume to Driller.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's super racist, but not. He hates all organic life forms the same.
I absolutely love the reveal of the Doctor's involvement in issue 6, which is one of the better stories that I think we've gotten from Lemire, is this thought of an ancient robot whose IP has kind of been stolen by this fraud, who used a dangerous and ancient AI to base all of his designs on, and the fact that it's just only going to get worse from here, because with the Tims awoken, they're going to be drawing the harvesters back, at least is what this story seems to point to. And he brought the harvesters here in the first place. So bright-eyed and greedy with a heart full of science.
Yep.
He decided he's going to screw the entire universe. Especially
because the robot that they find, the ancient robot that they find and wake up, literally says like, basically, you're gonna die. They're coming back, more or less. Kachung, thanks for shouting out my wild man look. I was on Comic Book NYC's show last night and I had to put on a hat. I thought it looked ridiculous. So this morning,
I've had head for the last 8 days.
This morning I went on Amazon to try to buy some hair clippers. Much like toilet paper, can't get them.
Nope, sold out.
Saw a great meme that everybody's just going to the store for their weed, but you got to meet your hairdresser in a back alley with a sock full of cash.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
I can still get weed real easy.
Some businesses thrive, right?
Yeah, some things are essential.
Yep.
Essential workers is my
Hey man, hippies need weed. They don't need haircuts.
It's truth.
And businessmen don't need haircuts because it's not running.
Bro, the country's shut down and it's been 420 all month. Like, come on.
Drew, you mentioned the reveal of the Doctor's secret, and for me, like I honestly, Alec and I were obviously huge Battlestar fans. I don't know if Drew is a huge Battlestar fan. Like,
not a huge fan. I'm a fan.
But for me, this was like the moment that like both made a connection to Battlestar, but also like took it in their own direction. Gaius and this Doctor have a ton in common, obviously, but I really love the way they slowly drew out his story, and then just the second he gets that hand severed and screams his truth, then you get this issue where he just lays it all out. And for me, it sets up a lot of interesting storylines going forward with this group of droids wanting their own situation, the humans wanting what they want, and yet again, Tim and the Doctor stuck in the middle. I just really like the way they set that up.
It amazed me. Like, I thought that all along this guy didn't know anything.
Because that's the way he's acting. He's sticking to that.
Yeah, but he stuck to it even after they're cutting his limbs off. He's like, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. It's like, at that point, I was like, maybe this guy doesn't know anything. And the second he stops and he's like, I'm a fraud, I'm like, oh, okay. He does know something.
I think it's like a combination of guilt and concern for his own life, because he thinks they're going to kill him if they find out. But once he's faced with the fact that they're going to kill him, he switches to, this is the only way I can save my life.
Yeah, I think he stuck to his story long enough to have me fooled as a reader, thinking like, this guy is just, he's an idiot. Maybe. And then when he said, I'm a fraud, I thought that maybe he still didn't know anything about it. He just stole the designs from somebody who had maybe some villainous machinations that he didn't know about when he stole those designs. And then we get into the basis that like this was just his opportunity to grab a little bit of fame and stardom and a little bit of money. And he saw the shortcut and didn't think any better of it. So that to me, I thought was a really cool twist to it all. And it had me going.
And it led me to dive. I mean, I just ended up diving right into trade number 2. I couldn't stop. And that's the biggest compliment I would give the series is I tore through the first 3 trades.
Yeah, Corp Vidal said, like Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. There's a lot of Philip K. Dick in here. But I mean, that anytime you talk about AI, you're going to have to talk about Philip K. Dick, because he started talking about AI before it was even really thought of by anybody else.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, if I was reading this somewhat as it came out, I started reading it and then quickly realized it's going to read better in trade, so I waited for the trades to come out. But I was reading them as the trades came out, but I certainly would have blown right through them if I could have. It definitely doesn't really have much of not many lulls in the story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was sucked in completely. And I think I kind of touched on the idea that like the first time reading through it, and obviously I'd read the trade a second time for this, but I was impressed by how many of the characters I cared about and how many of the characters I was interested in. Because there's lots of books that you read with a huge cast where you're like, okay, I kind of like this story, Game of Thrones, basically, where you're like, I really do like Tyrion, but I don't know that I care so much about this.
Sure,
why we spend great. When I was reading Game of Thrones, it would be like, God, I got a Cersei chapter. I got to read.
Get back to this. To the people I care about. Yeah.
Right. When can we get back to a Jon Snow chapter and I can really enjoy this again? But for Descender, I felt like it was consistent that like any character we landed with, I was like, ooh, let's see where this story goes. Let's see where this character's story is going to end up. I never got tired or frustrated with any of them.
Yeah. 2 trades in, I think it's got a lot of things in common with Saga in the way that it reads. Like every time the story takes a lull or starts going in a different direction, you're immediately shown something that maybe you didn't know you wanted, but you end up falling right into it. Especially in the beginning of the second trade, I felt like that really it didn't really do as much for me as the first trade did until I got probably about halfway through it and I started to enjoy it a little more. I think it takes you somewhere you're not super expecting to go, but it always delivers something entertaining every chapter of the way. So at least so far, I haven't gone into the third volume yet, but through the first two, that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I'd say for me it was satisfying all the way through.
Well, and this all kind of started with us trying Ascender for book club like months back. And my reaction was like, I like the universe. I like what's set up here, but I really feel like I want to go back and read the beginning of this.
I feel like you don't need Descender to enjoy Ascender.
And that's what I'm hearing, but I was instantly felt like I wanted to read this.
I started Ascender before I started Descender.
And I think Lemire kind of designed it that way where it would be a more rich read if you had read it, but that they were each standalone. They did their own thing.
Everybody's saying in the chat that I'm deep in the woods. I'm not. This is a sheet, so you don't see my mess. And it's just a clean backdrop. It's the cheapest way to go about it. I didn't buy a green screen because I'm not going to worry about learning how to light it.
Just get some green paint and you're set.
Look more professional than me.
That's what I'm saying. Like you throw up a black sheet and people are like,
got the mic coming down.
What's going on there? I'm in my studio. Everything's soundproof except for none of it's soundproof.
Stu studio.
There's a washer and a dryer right through this door over here. And somebody wants to start doing laundry. That's what you guys are going to hear.
Ruining the magic.
This subsequently is where the magic happens. Unfortunately, I'm no wizard, so that's where we're landing there.
Alec, you said you were reading this as the trade dropped and as the issues have come. Are you completely then caught up on Descender and Ascender?
No, I'm quite a few issues behind on Ascender.
Okay.
There's only one trade out though, correct?
For Ascender, I don't know. I've only read that. I've only purchased the issues of that.
I think they're on like issue 6 or 7. So
yeah,
the first trade might not even be out.
I feel like it's come out pretty slowly. But I think I know John's answer to this, but are you going to keep reading the rest of it, Drew?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I have the first 2 trades, and after I read the first trade, I read the second trade, and then that was a couple months ago, I think, probably around Christmas time. I actually sat down and read both the trades, and I have the rest of the series in single issues, but I've got so many freaking long boxes. I don't know where it is. I want to hunt it out, but I keep doing this daily show instead. So
yeah,
and sending emails back and forth right now. So like my time when I should have unlimited time to do anything has been very limited as of late.
I
don't know how I'm making that happen. I've got no job, and all of a sudden I'm working harder than I ever have in my life.
I like how Drew looks like he's in the woods. I look like I'm a quarantined hillbilly hobo, and John looks well rested, according to Delphia. So, you know,
John was shooting stories from poolside earlier. So, I mean, things are definitely doing better out there in Cali than they are around here.
You're muted, John.
My girls and I definitely enjoying the outdoors a little bit today for sure. But thank you, Delphia. That's so nice of you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to read more. Because I bought all 6 trades right off. That was one of the purchases I made before quarantine fully crashed on me. Because I bought all 6 and I said, this is going to be one that because I had finished trade 1 and I knew that I wanted to read the next few. So I bought all. That was one of the ones I was ready to go. So I'm purchased. It's done.
Good. Do it. I think there's one other deluxe hardcover, but I don't think there should be 3 for the whole story. I don't think all 3 are out, and I'm not going to buy.
The hardcover hasn't come out for 3 yet.
I don't think so, but might have by now. I don't keep track.
You don't like the floppies?
I don't like the floppies. No, I like my books hard.
I don't have the gift to play. Sorry.
Anything else you guys want to talk about with this?
Just read it. I honestly recommend reading it. I mean, if you're not sure what you want to read, if you want to try something out, it's a $9.99 Image Trades #1. You can't go wrong. And,
I was going to say it's a 9 out of 10.
I would say the first trade is a 10 out of 10. I think it's perfect. I think it's great. I don't have any complaints. And for $10 for those 6 issues, you can't go wrong. You will be hooked.
I will say I think it's absolutely beautiful, but the art is definitely not for everybody. If it's something that doesn't speak to you initially when you open the book, you're not going to like it all the way through. I for one love Nguyen's art. I love the work that he's done on things like Batman Little Gotham. I loved his Super Sons variant covers. Every time I see a book with his name on it, I pick it up. But that, I mean, it's for me, but it is a very loose line style with the watercolor painting throughout the entire book. So if that's something that doesn't do it for you, it's not going to work out. If you open it up and you're like, wow, this is cool, you're going to feel that way throughout the entire book.
Yeah, but he's a tremendous storyteller. The emotion that he puts into his characters is wonderful, and the layouts that he uses and just the colors, and he does it all himself. So it's really, for me, remarkable.
Well, it's funny because you guys are not the first people to tell me that the art is off-putting to people, and I was just maybe I'm just I'm in that Tradmore Silver Surfer Black place of just like if it services the story, whatever. Because I never questioned or was bothered by it at all. I was just enraptured by it. So like it's interesting that people would feel the opposite.
If you're looking for a traditional comic book art style, this is not it. That's all I would say there. And there are some people who are very traditionalists. I know a lot of people will see something that's painted on an interior and be like, no, that's not for me. I just would mention that the art is it's what I would call highly stylized. It's not it's not traditional in the way it's presented. That doesn't mean that I give the art in this book a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's my
beautiful.
Yeah, that's my taste. I definitely know people who would open it
I
up
also
and be like,
really like
what
Eduardo
is this
Risso
trash? What's that?
I also really like Eduardo Risso, and I know that's not for everybody.
Right. So, it's I would say to each their own. Today on the Daily Show, I shouted out Black Badge, which is Matt Kint. And I know that Matt Kint isn't for everyone. So it's when you see certain artists who have a certain style, I like to let people know it's like, yeah, I highly recommend this book.
Or Jeff Lemire's art.
Right. Exactly. I think it's exactly the same. I think it speaks well to what it is, but it's obviously not for everybody. I would say I recommend this book 10 on 10. But if you go in the bookstore or the LCS and you open it up and you look at one page and you go, what's that? Put it down because it's not for you.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, and Jackio says there are people who are brainwashed into the house style comics, the Marvel DC style that is sometimes
the house style has kind of fallen by the wayside in the past couple of years.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that I feel like it seems to be
kind of a revolution
with the Tradmores and the Silver Surfer Blacks. I think you tend to see an expansion of the expected. And for me, like I got back into comics because of 100 Bullets and Fables and Why the Last Man, which has a very odd style of art to Why the Last Man. So for me, like since coming back to comics, I've enjoyed things that broke the rules and were different. Not that I don't enjoy it. I mean, Jim Lee's Hush, I still enjoyed reading the crap out of that. But like something about an art that fits a story is what I like.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with the big two in the last 5 years or so, like ever since Convergence, I think like when Rebirth started, DC changed a lot of the way that they assigned their stories to artists and writers. And we either got top tier classic comic book artists working on these top tier titles, and we started to get a little bit more experimental, a little bit more indie cred artists getting the chance to work on other things. that house style kind of went away. Marvel did a lot of the same thing with some of their lower tier books, just giving them to a lot of web comic artists and things of that nature who had the ability to sell indie books for Boom and IDW. They then came to Marvel and they put them on smaller projects, and then the big projects all had a top tier artist. So a lot of that house style art went away in the last couple of years, and we're getting great things like Tradmore working on Silver Surfer. We're getting Olivier Coipel working on, miniseries for a stretch of 6 to 12 issues. We're getting some more interesting art. A lot of those young gun artists that Marvel put out,
or the DC Black Label, where you're getting some very interesting Harleen.
Right, you're getting these artists given a chance to really stretch their legs on something a little bit more meatier. So, yeah, I think that we've kind of seen the end of that house style.
Hopefully,
I mean, when everything looks the same, then who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. If everything looks like if everything is the same, but it's all like 6 out of 10, and it feels like it's 4 out of 10 because it all looks the damn same.
Right.
If everything's different, but it's a 5 out of 10, it feels like a 7 out of 10 because at least you're looking at something different. Variety is the spice of life.
And spice is the spice of food.
It's true.
So I guess that about wraps it up for the evening. Bit of a shorter episode, but like I said, when we love something, it's there's sometimes less to say, less jokes. But looks like a couple people said they're gonna try to read it because of us, so that's ultimately the goal. And I hope it gives you something to do during this quarantine period and something to brighten your day. Hope everyone is safe out there. Hope everyone is doing well, staying at home. I
want to shout out Drew doing his daily show on the Comic Core. So if you haven't watched on the Comic Core, he's doing a live show every day at I guess it's 11. It's 10:30 my or 10:15 my time, but
1:15 Eastern Standard Time, real time as I like to call it.
He's got all kinds of bits going on there. He's got countdowns. He's got Instagram.
It's an arduous task.
It's a lot of fun to watch. It's a great replay show. So if you've missed some, try a couple out. You might really catch some fun things. So shout out to Drew every day, Monday through Friday on that Comic Core. You can find him.
I'll be there.
I already sorted it. I just wanted to say real quickly before I let you guys plug whatever you'd like. Just wanted to say thank you to the people who are essential workers who are out there keeping us safe and fed and everything like that. So appreciate you because I don't know how to cook. So thanks, DoorDash.
Right.
You have anything else going on, Drew, that you'd like to plug?
Just the daily show. I know we got a poll going on the Comic Core community tab right now about what topic we're going to discuss on Monday on Modern Men. We took away the poll for the book because we're doing The Dark Knight Returns, which is going to be fun. It's on 420, so it'll be more fun for you if you come prepared. That's all I can guarantee. I can't guarantee it's going to be a good show, just that it will be better if you're enjoying your holiday.
And smoke a bowl.
Yeah, burn one down and come ask Seawood annoying questions in the chat. I said, can we talk about weed books? He said, absolutely not. So if you guys want to talk about it in the chat and drive him insane, that would be great. Beyond that, I just want to do a little shout out for my friends. I just want to do a shout out for my friends over on the SNB Network Comic Cast this Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. They're going to be interviewing Kelly Thompson. So go check that out. Those guys, I think, are doing a great job over there, and they're going to do an awesome job of that interview. I want to try to get as many people over there to check that out as possible.
Very cool. John?
I'm just doing the reading of Harry Potter with the girls. I was going to use my time just to say I stood in line with Alec and got this signed in Baltimore by Jeff Lemire. Signed my issue 1.
And I was bright enough to ask for a remark, and John didn't. He got real mad at me because I went second.
Yeah, my fault. I didn't realize what I was asking. My bad.
Jeff Lemire said, "Hey, that's cool. Only every other."
Right? Yeah, just for the people with quality beards.
He didn't not say that.
But he
With his eyes.
thought it. He
Said
thought
it
it.
with his eyes. Yeah.
Right.
And Sweet Tooth just got optioned, right?
Yeah.
That just came out. Who's working on that? Is it Robert Downey Jr.?
Oh, is it? I was gonna say
Yeah.
I don't know.
His production company is
Very cool.
working on the
Yeah,
Sweet Tooth.
I will.
adaptation.
This is the only Lemire book I've ever read.
You haven't read Black Hammer?
I've got the first trade of Black Hammer in the box here of trades to read, but I've never read it.
Well, when you guys do Black Hammer Volume 1, I'm coming back.
There you go.
We did.
The Threat and the Promise.
We did issue 1, the director's cut, which was black and white, and I hated it because I don't know why you'd ever want Black Hammer without color. It was
Armstrong
awful.
line work is pretty great.
It was awful. And I've since then I went and saw the trade was 50% off at my LCS, and it was a used version, and I pulled it off the shelf and I was like, God, this looks fucking good in color. Why did they publish this in black and white? So then I bought it.
I will give you a recommended list of Lemire readings.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys mentioned Baby Teeth. And that's great.
That's Kate's, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Baby Teeth.
Well, what's the one that he's got that's tooth?
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth. Sorry, there's
Yeah.
a tooth. I think there was a tooth in there somewhere.
I will recommend anything that Lemire has written. If you need a easy entry, Thanos Wins is always a great option, and the Century series that he just finished up for Marvel a couple months ago, that was great as well. His Old Man Logan stuff is good. Black Hammer's fantastic. Gideon Falls is great.
I might actually
Tooth is
have
fun.
some of the. I might have. He did a Century series. I might have read it and just assumed it was somebody else and not
The Century Mini that came out not long ago where he
I
splits.
might. Yeah, I think I read it.
That's
I think I
Lemire.
read it. Okay, that was Lemire. Okay, good. Then I've read something else. Hey, what do you know?
There you go.
Essex County, real good. Going back.
I have not gotten to Essex County yet.
The funny
Underwater.
thing is, Jason Misexplained is always saying that he's a huge Lemire fan. He's never read Descender.
Really.
Yeah, he needs to get on
Underwater
that.
Welder. Really
He would
good.
love it.
Of all the things that he had skipped, I was like, this is the one that everybody told me to read.
So yeah, you got your work cut out for you. So maybe we'll have to do another Lemire book in a couple weeks when we're still don't have new books to read.
Yeah, it's a name that inspires confidence in my purchases.
Yeah, very few books that he's done where I'm like,
Sweet
Yeah.
Tooth for
Oh,
me
yeah.
wasn't his best, but
it's
it's
valiant
definitely
work.
he cartoons the entire thing. He writes and draws it, so it's
Yeah.
it's got a different vibe to it.
The Valiant and Bloodshot Reborn both really good. Yeah, Essex County.
I don't read Valiant because I read comics, but that's just me.
Well, you're missing out.
I'm missing out on some Valiant.
Real good stuff. Thanks for joining us. Despite that last comment, I still love you,
Aw, thanks.
and you're pretty okay. too, John.
Got to throw in some hot takes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a show of DruManchu, baby, if you didn't have a hot take. So yeah, everyone stay safe. And next week we are going to do DC's New Frontier.
Ooh, good book.
Yeah, by the late great Darwin Cook. So look out for that. We're going to have a reading cut out for us because that's a thick one.
Well, 6 issues, right? Isn't it 6 issues?
I think it's 12.
I thought it was 8 issues.
The trade's like it's about that big.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Right, well, I think I downloaded a 6 issue something. So
Okay, let's read the first 6 because
There you
they're all like bigger than normal books too.
Okay.
I think they're all prestige format or something. But yeah, okay, very good. We'll see you guys next week, if not before, and never turn it back in the ocean. Okay, bye.